The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Then Gold felt it, the weight of 100 eyes on him. He glanced up and saw Jasmine coming toward him, Amphi on her heels, while the crowd watched. The policeman, too, was striding to catch up. "Uh-oh, I'm not out of the woods yet." "Gold?" breathed Jasmine, still red-eyed from crying. "I am so confused right now." "Yeah," Gold said warily, eyeing the officer. "As long as you promise not to arrest me again right away, I'll tell you everything I can." He was permitted. The cop, it seemed, was a genuine lawman, since a rocket operative probably would have tried to shut him up before the story could get out. And it was quite a story. To save time, Gold began at Chuck's residence, where he had first volunteered to deliver Amphi's medicine. He told about acquiring the mystery potion from Ariana in her pharmacist disguise, about seeing himself on the news, wanted on charges of drug possession, about his arrest at the lighthouse peak, set up to occur just as Amphi died, about being semi-rescued by will of the Elite Four, and finally, about the healing he had performed. At that, Jasmine's puzzlement returned. "If you could heal with a spoken word," she wondered aloud, "why didn't you do that first? Please don't be mad," she added shyly. "I just imagine it would have saved a lot of trouble." Gold tilted his head. "Would it have?" he asked. "That power isn't mine to use whenever I want. But even if it was..." He turned to look at the police officer. "You were under orders to take me in no matter what, right?" The cop seemed taken off guard, and the first words out of his mouth were defensive. "If every other charge against you was false, you still unlawfully escaped confinement before your release back in Goldenrod City. I was only doing my job." In the pause that followed, Gold bit back an angry retort, reconsidered his words, and spoke again. "I guess I can't blame you for that," he said with a resigned sigh. "You didn't know the whole story before. You still don't." "Every story has at least two sides," the officer responded stoically. "Just hearing yours won't close the case, even if you told all of it. Best thing to do is wait until we've got as many of the facts as we can." Gold knew it was sound logic, but he still bristled at being doubted. "Fine," he said curtly, jerking a finger at Amphi. "If this is how you react to witnessing the dead being raised, then take a blood sample. Check and see if I gave him whatever death-mimicking nightshade that Juliet drank. Better yet, retrieve the potion from Ariana, if she hasn't already gotten rid of it." He glared down at his intertwined fingers. "The fact is, like it or not, Team Rocket sneaked into your ranks, and it didn't stop at Goldenrod. It goes all the way to the summit of the Johto League headquarters, which Master Lance is preparing to retake. So if you're planning to take me in..." Gold offered up his wrists. "Could you at least escort me back to Ekritik first? I'm not safe here." "Gold, please!" Jasmine raised her hands, and he saw that the officer had turned to her with a helpless look. "Crap," he thought. "I've said too much again." "Nobody is more grateful for what you've done than I am," continued Jasmine, pausing to glance at Amphi. "Except our lighthouse friend. But proper justice needs time, and there's too little to spare. I'm constantly in new shock before the old can wear off. Go with Officer Shinichi for now, and when things settle, I promise I will help you." Her gentle imploring moved him. Gold knew that Jasmine had, in different words, said the same thing as the policeman, yet he felt more inclined to listen when she spoke. There was a strange but wholesome charm to her, whose effect might not have been limited to him alone. The officer, Shinichi, removed his hat and scratched his head. He seemed to consider Gold a second time, hesitated, then beckoned for him to come. Gold did not want to, but he felt his feet move automatically, and he slumped his shoulders. Shinichi turned as he came, waiting until he was within arm's length, then led him off. He did not lay hands on Gold, but made sure that he stayed within easy reach during their walk. The trek lasted only a minute, ending at a squad car that the officer had parked in the Pokemart lot. Officer Shinichi opened the rear door for him, and only then did Gold think to ask a question. "No handcuffs?" Shinichi gave him a bemused look. "Do you want handcuffs?" Gold shook his head. "The door's locked from the inside," said the officer, waving him in and shutting it behind him. He clambered into the driver's seat in front. "You're not going to vanish along the way." He shot Gold a second look. "Are you?" "I don't think so," Gold said, searching for his seatbelt. "But stranger things have happened." "If you're joking, I wish you wouldn't," Shinichi replied, issuing a weak laugh. The car pulled out of the parking lot, but they were soon merging onto a highway out of town, to Gold's surprise. He looked out the window, back toward the vanishing coastal city of Olivine, trying to spot something. "Mr. Shinichi, isn't the station back there? Ariana had me thinking it was within walking distance of the lighthouse." "It was," said the officer, "but I'm going to deliver you into Ecriteek's jurisdiction." Shinichi must have seen the look on Gold's face in his rearview mirror, because he smiled grimly. "Don't get too excited. This doesn't mean you're free." He shook his head. "I simply don't wish to be remembered in my own precinct as the man who dragged in a child." "I'm sure the media would provide cover for you," said Gold, remembering the report he'd seen on the ferry. Shinichi laughed again, a little easier. "You're not doing yourself any favors with these suggestions," he replied with ironic amusement. "And I'd be doing myself none to follow them. It's true that their narrative may hail me a hero today, only for me to become tomorrow's villain. Did I arrest a troublesome, drug-dealing, compulsive liar? Or a modern-day saint whose fame is in his healing? If you think that scene with Amphi left no impression on me, think again. It affected everyone." Any lingering resentment that Gold had felt for the policeman dissipated completely. Shinichi had been stiff and formal in public, warming only the slightest bit at Jasmine's voice. But here, alone and free from onlookers, he had allowed his mask to slip. He was a regular person, with his own inner conflicts, and some of them were leaking out. "Mr. Shinichi?" Gold asked again. "Can you tell me anything about my friend, Junichi Jackson? I mean, other than what was aired on the news?" "I'm afraid not," said the officer. "I'm not sure what all you saw to begin with, but I was only provided details about you, and clearly, even those were sorely lacking." He tilted his head, peering again at Gold in the rearview mirror. "We've still got a 10-minute trip. Why don't you tell me more about him?" And so, Gold talked. He described Junichi as the paradigm Pokemon trainer, eager to show his skill all the way to the top, until he stood alone in the victory circle. For this, Junichi had done whatever was necessary to secure the power needed, legal or otherwise. He'd gotten power, though not as much as he might have had, and he'd paid the price, though not as great a price as might have been. Gold did not attempt to be flattering, nor disparaging. He simply told it as he saw it. Most League trainers manage to boost their starter Pokemon to the final evolutionary form, he said. But Junichi did it in a week, when it should have taken months. Hard work alone can't do that. Whatever was in that secret potion the rockets gave him, it scares me to think of the side effects. If that stuff was safe, everyone would use it." Officer Shinichi was silent for a few seconds. Then, in a non-committal voice, he murmured, "I can see how people would be arrested for having something like that." "What will happen to him?" asked Gold, feeling his old worry settle in. "Shinichi's not a bad person. He just wanted to survive as a league trainer, and the new gym policy forced his hand." "I'm sorry," said Shinichi with a shake of his head. "I really don't know. I've seen all kinds of drugs and their effects. Too many circumstances are at play. How badly did his Pokemon get affected? For how long? Did he really have no other choice? Is he a minor? That last one will help a little if he is." "It can't be only him," pleaded Gold. "I'm sure there are other trainers who have been coaxed into taking that stuff." "And the law will treat them all the same," said Shinichi firmly, "as fairly as it can judge." After an uncomfortable silence from Gold, he spoke again in a placating tone. "It's not an empty platitude. I can tell that you've seen some sleazy behavior from us grown-ups, but please don't lose hope. There is still justice in the world, and those of us who are willing to stand up for it." This time, Gold believed him. It was different than when he was younger and had merely taken everything adults had told him at face value. Now, he had a far better understanding of the shape of the world. After all the trouble he'd seen, it had taken nothing less than the absolute purity of spirit to rekindle his hope. Even then, how many times had he needed her reassurance that everything would work out in the end? He would endure for a while, forget, and be reminded again. Yet, with each reminder after a challenge, Gold found himself becoming just a little more faithful. Therefore, when the two distant towers of Ecruteak City loomed closer, he did not panic. A prison sentence might be waiting for him at the end of their drive. But sooner or later, justice would reassert itself.